Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Nigel Page. We're going to film a series of videos. This first video is going to be about my collection of bikes. I'm approaching 50 years old in about 6 months. My love for bikes is probably growing rather than fading as I get older. I love riding, I love collecting bikes, and this first episode is going to be focused on a collection of bikes that I have currently. I've got way too many bikes, as you can probably tell from this video. But yeah, I'm going to talk you through the BMX bikes that I have currently. BMX is the sport that really got me into competitive cycling back when I was 10 years old. I still love the sport as well as mountain biking. So yeah, have a look through these bikes and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to run you through my collection of BMX bikes I've got currently. We're going to start off with this bike over here. As you'll be able to see, a lot of the bikes are influenced from the late 70s and 80s BMX, which was the kind of first era of BMX and what I was kind of bikes I was riding when I was a kid. So let's start off with this SE Racing STR1 over here. SE Racing, a brand that I really like what they're doing at the moment. They're bringing back a lot of the old 70s and 80s iconic BMX bikes. It was a huge brand from California back in the late 70s and 80s, and now with all the the different crazes in BMX and especially all the wheelie bikes and stuff, SE have come out with some really cool bikes over the past few years. This is my latest BMX bike I've bought. It is basically a remake of a Stu Thompson 1 quad angle. This bike was originally made in the late 70s that a famous BMX rider from America, Stu Thompson, rode when he rode for SE. It's called a quad angle with the different angles on the crazy design on the frame. The STR1 was the first design of the quad angle. STR1 meaning Stu Thompson replica, and the difference between this bike and a quad angle is the two down tubes that run consistently all the way under the bottom bracket and back round to the top tube, and they're just tack welded onto the bottom bracket. Obviously that design looks super cool, but there's a few issues with that. It's like super flexy. But anyway, this is a replica of that bike that SE have brought out. I think they brought out 300 of these, which I was able to get hold of one. It looks the same as the bike from the late 70s, but it's actually got modern geometry. So all my bikes, I don't just have them to put on the wall. I actually ride them. I enjoy riding them. Take them to the modern BMX track and try and ride them there. But really love this bike. The only thing I've changed on this bike is I've put some Skyway wheels on there. Again, iconic wheels that a lot of people used back in the 80s. These are a limited edition 50-year anniversary Skyways. They've got metal hubs on there. So I've put them on the STR1. I think it just looks really cool. From that one, I'll move you on to that's a 2020 model. We'll move on over to the STR1 24-inch version, which is this bike over here. So this is the same as the STR1, although it's a cruiser version or a 24-inch wheel version. This bike was released in 2019, so the year before the 20-inch version. Again, STR1, it's a Stu Thompson replica quad angle frame. Exactly the same design as the 20-inch, just takes the 24-inch wheels, cruiser. A lot of people in the BMX industry in the UK call me Crouser, because I tend to ride a cruiser quite a lot when we go to BMX races. I just find them easier to ride with, mainly riding mountain bikes. So that's a little fun fact that everyone takes the mickey about me on. This bike's really cool. It's got, as you can see here, it's got a set of Redline flight cranks on there. Redline was an iconic BMX brand in the 80s again, and whether you had a Redline or not, many people bought Redline flight cranks. They were like the pinnacle things to have. I had a set of them when I was about 12 years old on a Hutch BMX that I had. This bike's really cool, you know, same colorway, but the 24-inch version is the SE Baby Blue, but with the gold wheels and gold accents on the bike, which I think's really smart. I actually raced this bike last year at the first British BMX series round in Manchester. We were supposed to be away in New Zealand, which got called off because of the coronavirus, so I ended up going and racing this bike. I hadn't done a BMX race since 2012. Turned a few heads turning up on that with all the guys on the modern lightweight BMX bikes, but I managed to get a 4th place in the final in the vet class on that bike. So another cool feature on this bike, which is super iconic to SE, is you can see the camo pads on this bike. It's got the camo design with the SE Blue quad angle written on there. Now that first originally came about by a guy called Scott Brythorpe. So if we move over to this OM Flyer over here, this bike's named after him. He was a really cool guy in the late 70s from California who rode SE and started the iconic SE BMX racing team. So the pads on the quad angle actually come from, in the late 70s, Scott Brythorpe, probably only about 16 or 17 at the time, bought an old bus in California, had it all painted up in the camo colours. They made all beds and packed all the bikes in, and these young kids, local BMX kids from California, and they went off and toured the USA doing all the new BMX racing which had just come about in the late 70s. You know, it was huge and it grew really fast. And Scott unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he's a super iconic figure in the BMX history books. This is called an OM Flyer that SE have released in various colorways and specs over the last few years. I think this is a 2018 bike that I managed to buy, again a limited edition bike, but Scott basically you know, ran that team for SE and was a huge ambassador for the brand in the late 70s and 80s, racing himself, and they made him a 26-inch version BMX, being you know, an adult, I guess. In the late 70s, the BMXs were really small and they were designed for kids initially, you know, kids that wanted to be motocross racers and used to blast around the parking lots and make tracks back in the 70s, you know, riding their bikes on the dirt, which is where BMX came from. And this is, they used to call Scott old man, because he was older than all the kids, even though he was, you know, only a late teenager at the time. But this is an iconic model named after him, hence the name OM Flyer. It's a chrome molly, typical BMX shape bike. Rides just like a BMX but with 26-inch wheels. This bike's got really popular now with some of the younger kids, you know, that with the wheelie craze that's took off, and they make 29 and 27-inch versions of these bikes now for the wheelie kids. But I really love the 26-inch bike. I kind of go road riding on this bike when I just go out for a spin on a nice sunny day, and yeah, I love it. I think the electric blue and the gold colourway looks fantastic on it. I took this bike over to the Mountain Bike World Championships the other year when I went over with Elliot to do the 4-cross race, and I don't think I've had as many questions or comments about any bike I've ever had at a mountain bike race, which is crazy, but cool bike. Right, so this little quad angle is called, it's a 16-inch wheel quad angle. Obviously my love of old school BMX bikes has seemed to rub off on my son Harrison. I bought this bike when he was about 4 or 5. He's unfortunately started to grow out of it now, but this is probably the bike, out of all the bikes he's ever had, he's rode the most. SE released this bike a few times in a few different colourways. I managed to get hold of the white, blue and red one, which I think looks really cool. Again, I got some 16-inch Skyways and put them on that bike. My son loved those, and he's rode that bike a lot, and I think it looks super cool. And then moving on from the 16-inch quad angle, last year in lockdown, I built this PK Ripper up. So the original PK Rippers were one of the first aluminium BMX bikes. A lot of bikes in the late 70s, early 80s were steel framed, and SE were one of the first brands that came out with an aluminium frame. Had the brushed aluminium finish with the iconic baby blue graphics on and the camo pads. This is actually about a 2006 PK Ripper. It was green. I stripped it all down in the first lockdown last year when I had a bit of time. Polished it up. Slick Graphics actually made me some original PK Ripper graphics for that in the baby blue. So this is actually a more modern PK Ripper. Again, managed to get a new set of Redline flight cranks for there that I put on. Thanks to Sam Hill for sending me them over from Australia. There was a shop in Australia that had a few sets of those that I bought. I put some Skyway graphics on the bike, and so it actually looks like a late 70s early PK Ripper, but it's again got modern geometry, and this bike rides really well. I love it. Another brand that means a lot to me is Intense Bicycles. I rode for Intense for about 11 years, professionally as a mountain biker, and after that working alongside Intense and Jeff. Jeff Stieber helped designer come up with some ideas for a couple of bikes at Intense. This little mini Intense Sniper is actually a real Intense BMX bike. This is a mini version, a 20-inch bike that I actually put together for my friend Matt Stott's little son when he was really young. This is probably about a 2005 Intense BMX. They did Intense for a while on the BMX bikes, and then it was actually Toby Henderson that took over the Intense BMX side of things, moved away from Intense mountain bikes, and they had a really successful time making BMX bikes for a while, which has unfortunately come to an end now. But that was the first little sort of race bike BMX that I got for Harrison from my friend. He kept that all these years. His son's grown up now, and he passed that back over to me, and Harrison was riding that at the BMX tracks when we go sometimes. So moving on from another mountain bike brand that's touched on BMXs later on, we've got to talk about the two Nuke-proof BMXs that I've got. So this is a Nuke-proof 24-inch cruiser BMX. Back in 2012, we'd swapped over on the team from on the mountain bike race team, and we were starting to make our own bikes at Nuke-proof. And the BMX World Championships, Race World Championships, were in Birmingham in 2012. One of my old BMX friends suggested that, you know, I came out of BMX retirement and tried to qualify and go and do the World Championships in Birmingham. So I went and got another BMX cruiser bike, went and raced a couple of, I think I did 2 or 3 nationals early on that year to qualify for the Worlds in Birmingham. Managed to qualify for the World Championships in my age class, which was 30 to 39. And 2 weeks before the World Championships, Nuke-proof actually made me this custom frame. Basically, I had a look at quite a few of the bikes, the modern cruiser BMX bikes, sent over to some geometry to Ali Beckett that used to work at Nuke-proof, but I ended up getting that the week before the World Championships, and managed to make the final, and got a 3rd place medal at the BMX Worlds in Birmingham. So this bike means a lot to me. We had a couple of these made, and a couple of my friends that have always rode cruiser BMX said it was best bike they ever rode, and yeah, they made a really smart bike. And then moving on from that, they also made a 20-inch version, which is over here. Now this bike is the only one in the world. They only made one 20-inch. After that World Championships, I didn't really do much BMXing again. I've started riding again recently. Now my little boy's a bit more into it, so we go to the BMX track and do a bit of gate practice and just have a bit of fun. It's good times. So first time in a long time, I went to gate practice at Koppel BMX track last night, actually, on this, and give it a good blast around the track, and rode really well. Got a lot of comments off some of the local guys asking if Nukeproof are going to make bikes, BMX bikes, but I don't think they will, unfortunately, at this time, but you never know for the future. But this is a really cool bike. Again, I came up with the geometry and sizing for this, and Ali Beckett again got this frame made for me, so something I'll always keep. It's really cool. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed me walking through those collection of BMX bikes. We're going to film some more content soon. I've got a ton of mountain bikes that I think you guys will be interested in, that we'll do a walkthrough on those and explain about those. If you like the video, please put a like on there. If you've got any comments or any ideas that you'd like to see us film about bikes, riding, BMX, mountain bike, anything, just leave a comment below, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers.